Okay, so we've seen that AI has progressed dramatically in the last few years, and there's at least a few orders of magnitude improvement yet to come in the next 5 years, and maybe if we get an intelligence explosion, a lot more than that. Let's now start thinking about how that's going to change the world. Will it be a good thing or a bad thing? Or both? Now, I'm going to start off by talking about the positive side, why AI is good. And this is what the leaders of most of the big AI companies believe. They think this is going to allow human flourishing at a level never seen before, revolutionize the world for the better. Now, of course, every new technology, when it's come along, people have immediately, it's going to be a disaster. But if you look overall, people are living longer, healthier, better educated lives nowadays. So technology has been a huge net boon for the world in the last 200 years, and they would say, why not expect the same here? Your intelligence is a good thing. Having more intelligence in the world, how can that hurt? Now, Dario Amodei, who's the CEO of Anthropic, one of the leading AI companies, published a lovely article called Machines of Loving Grace, outlining some of the positive case for why AI might be great. It's focusing particularly on research, in particular medical research. So here's his basic idea. Already, right now, using an AI can help most researchers do research maybe 30% faster. Certainly that's the sort of speed up I get. It can do things like if I want to write some code to analyze some data, I can just say, write the code to analyze data, explain in words what I want, and not have to worry about debugging and Python knowledge and so on. So that's immediately a speed up for anything that often involves writing code. And many people who would never have written code or have battled with Excel to process some data can now ask an AI to write them Python code to do it far better. Or ask an AI to write Excel notebook that does it. Also, we spend a lot of our time writing grant applications or teaching materials and things, and AI can help with all of that. Take this grant application. It needs to shrink to under 500 words, write it in a professional yet exciting style. Brilliant. Can save a day's cutting and pasting. So that's right now. Right now, a researcher who uses AI is going to be maybe 30% more productive, everything else being equal, than a researcher who doesn't. So you might expect scientific progress to happen 30% faster. That's right now, though. So maybe by next year it's 50%, and by the year after that it's 70%, and by the year after that it's 90%. So it could be that by 2030, the use of AI, won't be done purely by the AIs, but a human researcher working with a team of research optimized AIs will be able to do research maybe 10 times faster than they can at present. So every human researcher, every person like me, might be accompanied by 1,000 geniuses in a data center, artificial intelligence agents. So let's say I want to explore some hypothesis. I might say to agent 1, explore this hypothesis, explore that hypothesis, write this code, test this, write this application, so on. I'll be managing a team, I'll be giving them ideas, bouncing ideas off them, sending them out to investigate the ideas, evaluating what comes in as an output. So it'd be like working with a large team of extremely smart postdocs or research fellows, only much cheaper, and more of them, and maybe smarter. So what this means is that science could go 10 times faster. The progress that would have taken 100 years happens in 10 years. The progress that would have taken 10 years happens in 1 year. So just imagine, where do you think medical research would have gone by the year 2125, 100 years from now? And imagine it's got there by 2035. So if I thought in 100 years we're probably going to have cured aging, people will never die of old age, and will have cured most of the world's diseases. Sure, I think most people think that's a plausible thing for science to have done in 100 years, but with AI, maybe we can get there in my lifetime. So maybe we'll have no more aging and no more diseases in 2035. Maybe that's an extreme case, but certainly we might expect a dramatic improvement in medical research over a very short time, and in fact in many other fields of research. So things that you might think of science fiction, colonizing Mars and traveling the galaxy and cures for aging and all these things that you might have thought, oh yeah, that's Star Trek, that's 100, 1,000 years in the future. That might all be happening much sooner than you think if we make good use of AI, and that's probably a good thing. We want to solve pollution, come up with ways to get rid of toxic chemicals, deal with chronic inflammatory diseases, all sorts of things that are real problems for the world that science is currently working on trying to solve. Maybe we could solve it much, much faster. And that's a good thing. The issue, though, is intelligence really the limiting factor? So let's say, for example, your medical researchers are 100 times more smart medical researchers. Does that mean there's 100 times more competition for research grants? Come up with an idea faster may not help you if you then have to do a clinical trial that's as slow as it ever was. So it could be that other things like availability of funding, time to run clinical trials are going to slow it all down, and the AI can't help with this. Dario Amodei talks about these in his article. He thinks it probably may not give a factor of 10 improvement, but maybe a factor of 5 improvement is entirely feasible, mainly by researchers, because they're expensive, have to focus on what they think are the most important topics, and often the things that have led to big breakthroughs, like for example the mRNA vaccines, were things that at the time were not seen as important. So with AI, we can pursue everything. We don't have to decide, look, we've got scarce money, we have to guess what we think is going to be important, we know we might guess wrong. You can explore a million different things, and maybe that will open up lots of bottlenecks. So that's science speeding up. How about economic growth? I mean, there's lots of ways in which you could think that AI could produce huge economic growth. Example people think about a lot is self-driving cars. If you have cars that drive more safely than a human, no one would need to own their own car. So many cities are clogged with garages and rows of cars parked in streets. You won't need that anymore. You'll just summon a car from some distant garage and it'll come and take you where you want to go at less of a price and more safely than driving yourself. So that could completely change cities. Many people think that the biggest economic change will be humanoid robots. A rule of thumb for me is if you want to think what will be really big in the future, often think what did the really rich people spend lots of money about in the past? For example, people 200 years ago, say in Jane Austen's time, the rich people would spend a fortune on having a carriage, and now we have cars. They'd spend a fortune on performers, and now we have TV. And of course they spent most of their money on servants. So just imagine if we could have robot servants around the house that pick up your washing, tidy up, put the dishes in the dishwasher, mop the floor, cook dinner. And the technology is very close to achieving that. Many people think in 2 or 3 years we'll be having humanoid robots that can do many of these things. Initially they'll be quite expensive, but the price will come down, and it could be the world economy is going to grow big time as everybody wants a robot or two as a servant in their house. All unpleasant jobs could be automated. I mean, some people, like me, enjoy our work, but a lot of people hate their work. They just do it for the money. If we could automate all those unpleasant jobs and free those people up to do something they actually want to do, isn't that going to be a wonderful thing? It is very hard to imagine the future. Like if you'd gone back 500 years and asked a peasant, how can we make your life better if we have technological progress? How's it going to make things better? They probably would have just thought, oh, more food please, maybe grow some more food, maybe stop the roof leaking on my house. They wouldn't have imagined cars and smartphones and package holidays to the sun and things like that. So we can't even imagine what this progress might allow, but it could be truly exciting. So we could be talking about overall our economy is growing faster. The economies of most developed countries have been growing at maybe 1% per year. The poorer countries grow faster because they've got catch-up growth. Australia per capita is pretty less than that. But if you start having vast robot factories and AI managers, you can imagine bumping the growth rate up. That's highly controversial. People in the field often think we might be able to get 10% a year, the same as what China achieved for many decades, in which case every few years the economy is going to double. Other people think this is unrealistic. We're more likely to bump from 1% a year to maybe 2 or 3% a year. But either way, the economy is going to get much bigger, which means there's more money. I mean, there's always a struggle. The government needs to spend more money on this, it needs to spend more money on that. Where's all this money going to come from? Do they have to raise taxes? But if the economy gets bigger, there's more money for everything, even the things that aren't impinged by AI. So, for example, looking after the disabled, or looking after the environment. We would like to do more, but we can't afford it. But if the economy is 10 times bigger, there's going to be a lot more tax revenue that we can spend on looking after disabled people, or looking after the environment, or many other things, even where AI can't help itself. So that's the positive case. Are you convinced?